Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special webinar looking at scaling your business. My name is Grant Chapman. I work in the advisor marketing team, and I'm your host for today's session. It's great to have you join us today. Before we begin, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation where I'm here in Sydney, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Today, we're going to take a look at driving productivity and efficiencies across your business with the tools in the QuickBooks suite and Dext and how they can enable growth. Everyone is feeling the squeeze right now. There's a lot of work on. You might be understaffed, or you're trying to boost your team's productivity and drive down some costs because of the ongoing inflationary pressures that are eating into your margins. I think no matter what the pressures are that are facing your business or what your goals might be, we can all agree that the last thing we want to be stuck doing day in, day out is spending hours on manual processes, repetitive data entry, or sorting out receipts and invoices from clients. So we're going to take a look at how to automate some of those processes, as well as some of the opportunities that arise to really scale your business and provide better value to your clients when you actually do improve your data management processes. Let's get into a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So today's session is being recorded, and we'll be providing everyone who's registered with a copy by email. So watch out for an email in your inbox that'll let you review any of the content shared today or share it with your other team members. If you're having any technical difficulties with not being able to see or hear the presentation, we'd suggest you refresh your browser, you restart your device, or maybe try a different device. Again, you will receive a copy of the recording, so while it's not quite as good as the live thing, at least you won't need to panic that you'll miss out on anything. When it gets to demo time, to see the screen better, we'd recommend that you maximize the screen, but just note it does take a couple of moments for the screen to render properly. So if the screen appears a little bit blurry at first, just give it a moment to clear up. That's housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into today's session. Today, you're going to be hearing from Denise Twigger. Denise is a registered BAS agent, a bookkeeper, and founder and director of BAS and Balances. She's also a member of the Intuit QuickBooks Trainer Writer Network. Denise has more than 20 years experience in the industry, and she's really passionate about helping small businesses get set up with the most up-to-date systems to stay compliant and to save time and money while running their businesses. And she'll be sharing some of her tips on that today. We've got Glenn Castle with us too, the regional accounting and product expert with Dext Australia. Glenn's a chartered accountant who's combined his love of technology with his accounting skill set, and he's really all about helping accountants and bookkeepers to use tax and accounting software to drive efficiencies in their businesses. He's always on the lookout for new and exciting tools and technology to make life easier. And with his 20 years plus of experience that's been split between working in practice, implementing software, and as a product manager, Glenn's going to be sharing some of those best practice tips that he's gleaned and really diving into the tools in Dext and the integration with QuickBooks today. That's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Denise to say a quick hello and set the scene a little bit more. Denise, over to you.
Right, thank you so much, Glenn. And it's an absolute, thanks, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here with Grant and Glenn from Dext as well. Thanks so much for that lovely introduction, Grant. Absolute pleasure to be here with you as well. So what I'm going to run through this morning with you is basically how to bring all those efficiencies into your practice. So as Grant mentioned, I do run my bookkeeping practice. I've been in practice for over 25 years. So I've certainly been through the highs and the lows when it comes to basically trying to find ways in practice to build and maintain your client base without losing that passion of making sure that you're doing an A-grade quality job. So I know we do try to find tools in our industry, which some of them are great. Some of them help us with what we want to achieve. Others aren't so good. So I've been playing with what was called Receipt Bank when it first came out, close to probably 16, 17. I'm sure Glenn will fix me up on that one, how long it's actually been around for. But I've been on the journey for a very, very long time with what we now know as Dext. For anybody who has running a bookkeeping practice, we'll show you why you would look at Dext to bring that into part of your toolkit for your business, because it really will start to save you an amazing amount of time. And obviously, the less human interaction that we have with data, the cleaner it becomes. So it's also about clean data. We like to make sure that when we're running those financials, we have got absolutely clean data. So you can see, well, I'll show you in Dext this morning how you can go that one step further and make sure that your bookkeeping or data coding is captured at almost receipt stage, which is just going to save you as a bookkeeper, BAS agent, a lot of time. It'll also help your efficiencies as a BAS agent when you're going through your checks and balances, knowing that if you've got all your work clean at the very beginning, you're working with the AI in these tools, then you know that what you've told the AI to do, such as I've got a fuel receipt, I want that to go to fuel, then you know guaranteed that you're not having to repeat yourself and check your work over and over again. So that's going to save you a lot of time as well. I'm not going to do a lot of spoilers because I'm going to save some for when I show you in demo. But what I really hope you'll get from this morning's session is just some really cool nuggets on how to get some quick tips on how to implement those changes, which will save you time. And we will talk about the value of cost when it does come to implementing a tool such as Dext. So I'm really looking forward to taking you through that as well. And also Glenn and I later on in this episode will be doing a bit of Q&A. So we're throwing in some case studies. As I said, I've got over 25 years. I've got a lot of great stories. I've got some pretty horror stories too, but we'll save the good ones for today. So looking forward to catching up with you in a little bit. Please really just sit back and enjoy this one. As Grant said, it is being recorded. So yeah, looking forward to showing you guys some live tips and tricks shortly. So I'm going to throw over to Glenn, who will take you through some really powerful stuff inside Dext. Thanks, Glenn.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Denise. So yeah, excited to be here chatting to all of you guys today. I know we've probably spoken to a few of you guys I can see in the on the call already. But yeah, I guess really excited to have Denise on this particular call as well. I've been out of practice for probably about 15 or so years now. So for one, wish I actually had some of these tools when I was in practice as well, because I think one of the things that we can sort of look at is the data entry. It's probably one of the most manual, time-consuming processes that we traditionally have gone through in the past. Thankfully, technology sort of caught up to where that is now, and it doesn't need to be that way any longer as such. So obviously for Dext, Dext is really big about trying to create efficiencies within that practice by trying to automate essentially what was a manual task previously. Our mantra that we really have at the moment is really around making accounting effortless. So that's really what we try to do in every single facet of our business. And we have a few different products in our suite now, back from when it was Prepare. There's been a couple of acquisitions over the time, but it's all around that single mantra of making accounting effortless. I think when we come and look at Dext Prepare specifically, if you think about what's sort of happening within the Australian business landscape, looking at some statistics, there's around about 1.2 billion invoices that are transacted annually within the Australian ecosystem as such. So that's a lot of manual data entry if people are doing it that way. What we really need to find, with a lot of that data is a way of actually cleanly and efficiently getting it into that accounting system. And Denise was sort of mentioning there about good quality data as such as well. It's important that when we are obviously getting that information in there, it's right and it's accurate. Okay, now we're all human, we can all make mistakes. Being able to rely on some of this technology that can actually automate that whole process, use some of the AI, the machine learning that we'll sort of talk about a little bit as we go. As I go through this session today, there's really sort of three main areas that I sort of look at when we're sort of viewing, I guess, the Dext Prepare product. And it's really around the premise of that input sort of process and output. So if we think about the input, it's around how are we going to get that data? What information actually needs to end up in that accounting system? So we're going to take a look at how we actually capture some of that information, the process, what we actually do with that information. How do we actually get it off that invoice? How do we get it off that receipt? How do we know what it is? What needs to actually happen with some of the workflow? And then if we talk about the output of Dext into a tool like QuickBooks, is how do we actually automate that? How do we actually make that integration seamless? So it's essentially that no-hands approach to accounting. We can have information come in, processed by technology, output by technology. It's already there in the accounting ledger. So I'm going to go and have a look at the different forms of data capture tools that we have available inside of Dext Prepare. The one way that I like to view Dext Prepare, it's really that funnel of actually taking all of this information and actually putting it into QuickBooks, right? We can get data from a whole lot of different sources, and it's really around what's going to be comfortable for yourselves or even your clients' businesses as well, because there's a lot of people that want to transact different ways. There's businesses that want to communicate different ways in terms of actually sending this data through to the small business. If we think about something like the mobile app, pretty much everyone obviously has phones nowadays, whether that's on an iOS or an Android phone. We have the solution basically that will put that in the hands of the small business owner. If you wanted to actually push some of this work back on your client, that could be just the tradie going to the stopping by the fuel station, being able to snap the receipt then and there, and actually having that automatically flow through into QuickBooks. Email in. We look at statistics across the entire Dext database on the different submission methods. This is by far and away the #1 method of actually getting information into the system. It's around about sort of 54, 55% of information comes in through that email in functionality. I am going to run through some demonstrations on the mobile app and the email in functionality a little bit later, but that's really where you can actually gain a lot of those efficiencies by setting up things like forwarding rules, even giving your email in address to your suppliers. That information can come into that Dext funnel and get pushed straight across into QuickBooks. We have other tools in there, the web app. If you've got like a multiple documents, maybe you're just sticking a whole lot of files through the scanner. Maybe your client's still coming to you with a shoebox full of receipts or invoices. Scan it all as a PDF and you can stick it straight into the web app. We can have that automatically split it out and fed off, separated, invoices created, pushed across into QuickBooks. Invoice fetch, we can connect over 1,500 different suppliers directly if we wish to, even direct connections into Dropbox, PayPal. One lesser known one in there is Zapier. What we find with Zapier, they have around about sort of 5,000 apps essentially that connect into there. We can actually use that within Dext Prepare as well if we wish to. So even something as simple as connecting up to Google Drive, if your clients are used to giving you documents in a certain manner, maybe it is to a Google Drive, maybe it's to a box, you can actually automate that entire process and not change anything from their end as well. So it's really about using some of these data capture tools to simplify that entire process. The last one that I've got on the list there, we've had that for around about a year or so, is e-invoices. One that I'm probably most excited about because we're not actually having to rely on OCR data extraction for that tool. We know what all of that information is. So if you're something like Bunnings is obviously issuing e-invoices now, you're interested in line items, for instance, all of those line items will come through. There's no OCR extracted needed, and then we can start categorizing and processing them accordingly. I guess on the e-invoicing side of things as well, you can sort of see how that Dext Prepare app is offering that solution on no matter what method you want to submit documents into the system, we can deal with it. You don't need to have a separate app for e-invoices or a separate app for capturing things on your phone, etc. Dext Prepare can actually deal with that entire process. When we look at data extraction is obviously one of the biggest selling points of Dext Prepare. Anyone that's probably heard about Receipt Bank, etc., we quote around 99% accuracy. I've put up on the screen there a list of all of the fields that we actually extract off the invoice. So there's a lot of information that we can actually glean off it. Even if it's something like the currency, for instance, we can detect whether it's in AU dollars, whether it's Great Britain pounds, etc. We can translate that as well. Something as simple as even the payment method. We will actually look on the receipts to see which perhaps credit card was used. And I'm going to show you that example a little bit later. So it makes it really easy to actually reconcile when you come to actually do your reconciliation or your bank rec inside of QuickBooks. So when we talk about that data extraction, how we get to that 99% accuracy, when we actually are extracting these documents, when our AI machine learning is running over this, we're actually applying confidence levels on each and every single one of those fields. If we're not confident with, let's say it's something like an amount, for instance, or it's a currency, it will actually go into a manual process to actually make sure that we're actually delivering the right information to you. So you can think about Dext Prepare as really another staff member as such. We're essentially making sure that the information we get and we give to you is going to be as complete and as accurate as possible. All right. Once we've obviously got the information into the tool, we've extracted all of that data off the invoice, for instance, what we then do is really that next level. This is really then where the automation comes into play. And Denise has mentioned it a little bit earlier for something like your supplier rules, for instance. Off to the right-hand side, we can see there with our supplier rules, we can basically control where all of this information goes to based upon the supplier. So I'll use the fuel example. It was from something like 7-Eleven, for instance. We can code that to automatically go to fuel, for instance, in your accounting ledger. We don't have to need to do anything around it. As an alternative to supplier rules, what we can also look at is what we refer to as auto categorization. Now, this is using our AI. This is using our machine learning. If, for instance, you've got certain receipts coming in from a particular supplier. If you code them enough to that particular supplier, our systems, our AI systems, our machine learning will actually start remembering where you've actually coded it from and make that suggestion for you in the future. Now, if you're already a Dext Prepare user, you do need to turn that on in the settings, but that's an alternative to sort of the supplier rules. Supplier rules, you get a lot more control over what happens to it. Auto categorization, it starts remembering what you've done in the past. Auto publish, that's really getting to our no hands approach to accounting. If you've got something that's coming in from a fuel docket all the time, for instance, it's a receipt, it's paid on the credit card. Once you set it auto publishing, Dext will process it. You won't even see it in Dext. The client will snap the receipt, it will come into Dext, it'll get processed, it will end up in QuickBooks automatically. So there's certain receipts or certain controls you may want to put in place around whether you see it or not, but auto publishing is really that no hands approach to accounting. The next one on that list there is talking about duplicate detection. So we will actually detect if there are those types of receipts or invoices that are already in the system as such. So this is really to eliminate that need of duplicates getting into the system, double up of invoices, etc. We will actually alert you to the fact. We actually have full control over that as well. So if you've got that tradie that's going down to the coffee shop buying the same coffee 5 times during the day, we actually have control at that supplier level to turn that off if you need to, and then Dext will obviously not recognize it as a duplicate. So once we've got all of that information in place, we've got all of our automation and our rules applying, that's when it goes across into QuickBooks. So that's where we start talking about what integration levels we have there, and we're going to show you some of the fields that come in from QuickBooks. You can see there we've got some examples of the class, the location, etc. in there. That will push it all across. It'll push the source image across as well. So you've actually got that supporting document around what happens in there also. So I hope that set the scene a little bit for you guys. What I'm going to do now is we're going to take a look at some of those 2 examples that I've sort of spoken about previously. So first we're going to look at the mobile app, and then we're going to have a bit of a quick fire demo on our email forwarding in as well. So just to show you how Dext works in practice, for me being an accountant, it's something I always like to see. I just like, just show me the software, please. So hopefully you guys will get something out of it. So we'll just queue up the video. As Grant mentioned, it might appear a little bit blurry just to begin with, but we'll just get that started now. Bear with us for a second there. It's just the video will be loading. It'll come up in a second. I think that's not the right one, Annabeth. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're right. Okay, so here we are. I was expecting a logo to come up. We're looking at our supplier rules here. So talking about those duplicate cost items within there, we can sort of start looking about what control we actually have over those. I'm going to set the category in here. So I'm looking at this particular supplier, and it's come in from 7-Eleven. So I'm going to actually set that to fuel and oils. In this particular example, the class that we're looking at here, we're setting the class, the location, etc., which has all come across from whatever settings you actually apply within QuickBooks. Looking at the tax rate, I'm relying on the extracted amount within there, but we do actually have control over whether we want, it's always going to be GS Town expenses, for instance. I am also going to make, for this particular 7-Eleven one, to extract it as paid where possible. A little bit of an advanced functionality that I'm going to actually put in play here. For something like fuel, if we've got a motor vehicle that perhaps isn't used 100% for business, what I'm actually using in this particular example is what's called a smart split rule. So this is actually sort of helping with your automation. You're not actually having to do a journal entry at the end of the month or before you do the BAS, etc. I'm actually going to go through and set for the fuel and oils. This is actually going to have an 83% business usage within here. I'm now going to put the remainder across to our private use percentage. But by putting these type of rules, etc., in place, every time, say, a receipt gets captured for 7-Eleven, it's actually automatically going to split it based upon that percentage that I put in there into those particular categories. You're not then going to have to worry about it when it comes BAS time or when it becomes tax time. Going across and having a look at our mobile app now. So imagine your client is there, he's out on site, for instance. he's got a receipt there for 7-Eleven. Now, what we can do within our app, we can either take a single, a multiple, or we can combine documents together as well if there's a couple of different pages within there. I've just taken a photo of a single receipt we've got in there. It's captured. It's going to upload it into Dext. It's going to get processed accordingly. All of that information is going to get extracted. So you can picture this is your client out on site doing all of this information automatically. Once this has happened, we can see now that it's actually come into Dext. You as a bookkeeper, potentially, you have visibility over what information is coming into your client's account that we've got within here. So scrolling through that list, we can see everything that was extracted. That's all happened within, a couple of seconds, basically. What the due date was, it's applied those supplier rules, our class, our location within there. It's extracted the amount. It's actually even identified the credit card that was used to be paid in that example. It is applied below. If we have a look at our line items, that split that I put in place previously. So we've now got our business usage in there. We've also got our private usage in there as well. So by having that supplier rule set up, our client's out on site, they've taken the photo, it's come into Dext, all the rules have been applied, the information's been extracted, that is now ready to publish straight out into QuickBooks. So it takes a few seconds there to publish out into QuickBooks. You'll get an alert when that's actually happened. So what we'll actually do once this is published across, we'll go and have a look at how it actually looks like in QuickBooks. So this is really about automating that entire process. Okay, so we can see there that's now being published across to QuickBooks. We'll jump into QuickBooks and have a look at it. I'm just going to search up there via the supplier, which was obviously 7-Eleven within there. We'll open up 7-Eleven. We'll be able to see that particular invoice. It does look a little bit blurry on my screen there, either that or my eyes are going. We'll open up that expense and we can see that has come in directly as it appeared within Dext. We've got that credit card at the top. So when you come to do your reconciliation inside of QuickBooks, all of that information is going to be there for you, including the attachment, all of those records. So I've gone through that in quite a bit of a detailed process. The reality is when that happens in practice, it's essentially seamless. Okay, it's all about getting that information in from the mobile app, published across into Dext. All right, if we could just play the next video then, and we'll have a look at how it actually works from our email in functionality. So with the email in functionality, I'm going to show you a bit of an example. Yep, if we can display that one. A bit of an example of how we can actually get the information into Dext initially from an email. So I'm going to be using our forwarding in rules example. So you can see here I've got an invoice that's come in from Bayside Wholesale within there. What I'm actually going to be doing is we're actually also going to be extracting the line items off here as well. So I'm actually going to be interested in the details of this. To get that invoice into Dext, all I'm going to do here is actually forward it to your unique email address. So we'll send that across. That's going to go directly to that client to which it relates to. Having a look at that over in Dext Prepare now, we'll open up that Bayside Wholesale invoice. Now, I had line item extraction on for this particular supplier. We can turn that on or off on a supplier by supplier basis, because in this particular example, I was actually interested in all of that line item detail within there. So I'll just jump in and have a look at it. So we've got those edit the line items. In this particular example as well, what I'm actually looking at is the products and services. So here we've actually acquired some golf balls. I actually want that to go into my inventory tracking purposes. So you can see here, we've pulled the product and service straight across from QuickBooks. We can actually categorize all of those line items across to the particular product and service, publish it straight across into QuickBooks. And that's going to update whether we had quantities on there or not, for instance, based upon what fields that we were actually interested in there. So we'll have a look at what that looks like in QuickBooks as well. We'll go ahead and look at the Bayside Wholesale. So let's bring that particular list up. We'll show what the actual invoice looks like. So it was created as a bill. Previously, we created essentially the credit card transaction for the mobile app. We've got all of our line item details in there. That's been applied against the product and service. Also got the attachment as part of that. And then if we have a look at, say, our products and services area, we'll actually be able to see that particular invoice coming through and impacting our product and services detail report within there. So I'm just going to update the date within here so we can actually see a list of all of those detailed transactions within there. So you can see how we started out with an email, came into Dext, Dext extracted all the information we need to push that automatically across into QuickBooks there. So really a couple of seamless processes as to how we get data into QuickBooks by using Dext Prepare. So hopefully that was useful to you guys. I'm going to be showing some more demonstrations like that at the Get Connected session. So hopefully found it useful. I know Denise is now going to take us through some of her examples as well, just to sort of show you guys how you can sort of maximize using that Dext and QuickBooks integration. So thanks for your time, and over to you, Denise.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Glenn. Wow. It's just, I'm sitting here and even as a bookkeeper in practice, I often wonder about, what the staff are up to. So I think it's a really good opportunity as well to sort of sit back and work out what systems you're doing in your own practice that you could use Dext to do for you. There's so much Dext has come such a long way where it's almost becoming, it's our own accounts person. So, being able to capture the data, being able to code the data, being able to put the data into our software program. I mean, really, it is a mind-blowing, time-saving device. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to share my screen, which I'm just going to go through the integration side of it, because you want to make sure that everything's looking beautiful and sweet. So you'll be able to see my demo screen here. So this is my Bass Like a Boss, my QBO file. So it's really important to, when you're looking at a new client in Dext, jump onto their data file as well. Come straight down here to your connections, because what you want to do is see if their Dext is already connected to another software program. If you see that it's connected into your QuickBooks, perfect, that's great. But what I'm going to show you is if it's not. So I'm just going to disconnect this one quite quickly here, just to show you what will happen. Nice and safe, you know that the software has been successfully disconnected. As you can see in here, there is an absolute swell array of where you can have your Dext falling into, and that's really exciting about the Zapier as well. One thing to pay attention to when you are integrating your QuickBooks is there's two. So don't go with the desktop one, please. Otherwise, you might get yourself in all sorts of trouble. So come along here and just really quickly jump onto your QuickBooks Online demo here. And then all you've got to do now is follow the green bouncing ball. So we're going to connect this to QuickBooks. It'll happen seamlessly. It happens within seconds. So you can see I've disconnected a software connection. No problems at all. Not going to alert anybody. I'm just going to grab my Bass Like a Boss, Bass Like a Boss. And so I've just picked the practice, which is mine, and the client file, because I want this to fall into my client file, not to my practice software. Otherwise, I'm going to have all their bills in my program, which is not going to be fun. And it just warns you, it just says, hey, are you sure you want to connect Dext Prepare to Big Bass Boss and Bookkeeping? Absolutely, I do. If you made a mistake here, no problem. Go, no, thank you, and go back a step. If you get to this stage, you're in a hurry. I know how busy us bookkeepers can get, and you realize that you've connected the wrong data file. You've just seen how easy it is to be able to disconnect it. So this is where Glenn was talking about a bit of the magic that happens inside Dext as well. So this is where you've got your automatic publishing. So same when you connect any software together, there's always going to be an integration step to walk through. So this is where the Dext team or the AI wants us to say, well, great, you connect into QuickBooks. Now let us help you one step further, because remember, all you want to do, the end result here is get that client's expense into their software, or even their invoice with the invoices now, even better. But our goal as bookkeepers is to get that data into their software, get the receipt, their source document, as fast and as clean, as quickly as possible. So you've seen on the mobile app that Glenn showed us before, all you do is you give that to your client. So if you've got a client who doesn't want to share their QuickBooks software, because we all know how wonderful the Scan Snap in QuickBooks is, and that's absolutely perfect for a really small sole trader that might only have a handful of receipts a month to deal with. And Glenn and I will talk a little bit when you look at implementing Dext for your clients. But this is, so you would use your QuickBooks scanner. If you just got, for me, I use the QuickBooks scanner. I'm only pretty much doing 1 or 2 receipts a week. So one's fuel and the other one's is if maybe I go to Officeworks and buy some stationery. So for me, using the scanner, in my tool of my software is perfect sense. But when it gets to the bigger clients, when you're ending up with your shoebox clients, your hospitality clients, your mechanics, those clients that are a big value client, you know that you can put them onto something like Dext because it'll save you time. Because all you think about when a shoebox comes in and you're looking at the time that's involved with it, go and buy yourself a little scan machine, a little scan snap. They're about $800. And I tell you, I know a lot of the bigger bookkeeping practices have usually got a scan snap machine tucked in their office somewhere, because when you do get those bulk clients that come through, this is where Dext comes into play. So I'm just going to quickly run through here. So we want to basically, with our connection, we want to publish the tax rates. This is where we want the AI to work with each other. So AI and Dext working with the AI in QuickBooks, keep the human error out of it, keep the data nice and clean. So this is where you can pretty much turn around to Dext and say, this is what I want the rules to be for this client. So this is this client's file. Anything except I want it to go to GST free. Anything with tax sales, put it on GST free. And again, I'm just going to follow my GST free and my GST on. So this was the automatic publishing that Glenn mentioned before. So you can automatic publish for all, and then you can automatic publish for turning it on. I turn it on because you want everything like the Bunnings, your fuel receipts, your 7-Elevens, you just want them to go straight through from photograph straight into your QuickBooks software. Dext will funnel it through. Client will take the photo, Dext will funnel it through. But what you can capture in here are your statements. So what I generally do is I like to capture everything the client's doing, whether it's a statement, a receipt. I don't really want delivery notes and stuff, but it's personal choice of what you want to use and what you want to collect from the client. And all I do is you just untick what you don't want in here. And that's it. We're now set and we're ready to go. So next step, we've got our connection to QuickBooks up and running. We're really happy with that. Now we're going to have to get some data in here. So you can either use the mobile app, but if you've got a shoebox and you've got a scan snap machine, or you might have a Google Drive, you've got the receipts stored in an external software or an external file, what you can do, up here you've got add documents. So by clicking on add documents, this is where I can bring in all my documents in a bulk. So my scan machine will download a file. It contains 50 or 60 receipts, whatever I've just scanned through. Big thing here, though, is when you're doing a bulk upload, please click on the one document per page. So a little tip in here. So otherwise what will happen is you'll end up with one document that'll contain all the files, and that's not what we want. We want to be able to extract every single file, every single document that's come through. So you might have 58 documents in one folder. And then what Dext will do, then you just drag it and drop it straight into this green box, or you can upload it and select it as well. So if you do have it externally, then you can come through here and find it in an external storage system as well. It happens instantly. It's so fast. The AI, I remember we used to take, with Receipt Bank once upon a time, we'd put the documents in today, and then tomorrow we'd come back in there and all of the AI would have been working overnight, putting everything down. So we'd know that tomorrow's work is pretty much set for us because whatever we threw into the program today would be ready for tomorrow. Now that doesn't happen anymore. It's almost instant. So it's a really nice way of going scan. While the scan is doing its thing, you could be doing something behind the scenes, maybe cleaning up something else that needs cleaning up in that data file. Go put the kettle on, whatever, because instantly it happens. These are the email boxes that Glenn also mentioned before. So you have also got your option here to use your email to Dext, and that's where you'd use your multiple one as well. And again, of course, you got your scan on your mobile. You can snap that as mobile. Now, before I do leave this little magic box here, I do want to show you the bank side of it. So there's been a lot of conversations in a lot of the bookkeeping forums about the dreaded client that gives us the PDF bank statements. And we all sit there as bookkeepers and go, no, because honestly, it takes, I don't know if you've ever timed yourself, but it takes about half an hour to manually code one page of a bank data. So you get one bank statement page. It's got 20 to 30 transactions in there. It takes roughly about half an hour to do one page. So if you get someone who gives you a 7 or 8 page bank statement, you're up for 3 or 4 hours worth of just absolute mindless work. What you can do here is to upload your bank PDFs from the client directly into Dext. It costs 55 cents a page. Now, if we're doing this manually, bookkeepers, our hourly rate, roughly, let's call it between 80 and $100 an hour. So you're happily going to gift $50 for half an hour if you're a $100 bookkeeper. You're happily going to sit there and gift away. And I can tell you now, if you charge your client a $400 fee for doing a coding of their PDF bank statement to CSV, so you can bring that into their software, your client will not be very happy with you. So please use the Dext power in here. It's 55 cents a page. You can't even do that in the breath of a minute. So all you need to do is come in here, do your bank, pick the bank. You can create the bank on the fly here. So if it's a new client, just put your bank statement, your bank details in here. And then again, it's just dragging and dumping the bank data, the bank PDF straight into this area as well. And that does take a little bit of time. So probably give the AI maybe about half an hour to an hour, not even. It's pretty quick. But then you can export it from Dext via a CSV and then import that into your QuickBooks file. So you know you can upload request data from QuickBooks, so you can do a request to yourself. So if you've got a PDF that you've done for a client, you've converted it to CSV, you go into your QuickBooks file, you request it, you've already stored it, so then you can easily grab that CSV and import that into your QuickBooks file yourself. So the integration inside from Dext to QuickBooks is absolutely beautiful. When you put through all of your receipts, you get this little, sort of like a little ladder system. So the Dext AI will let you know what's processing. So that'll be, your 150 or 58 receipts, whatever it is that you've just uploaded. And it's instant. The first time you do it, actually just watch how fast it is. It'll blow your mind. It's really quite cool. What we'll do, the AI will put through anything that's ready. So you'll have a nice list of everything that's ready in green, and you just tick the top and publish them all straight into QuickBooks. Anything that the AI can't pick up, it will just sit in review. So this is where you might have anything that's duplicated, and don't forget, in QuickBooks, under your books review, you do have your duplicated transaction list. So which is great if you do have clients that you might have already done their bank rec in QuickBooks, but you've got them using Dext, and they're really excited and they're saying, oh my gosh, I really want to get all my receipts and photograph everything. Can I put everything into my Dext because I really, really want to? Of course, you're going to humor the client and say, absolutely go for it, because you know that in your books review, you can go through there and get rid of any of those duplicated transactions. So we've got nice tools inside our QuickBooks to humor the clients that really want to get rid of all their shoe boxes, because that's really what we're achieving at the end of the day, is getting our clients paperless. Because by them going paperless, that means they are dealing with that paper and they're removing it. So we're asking them to remove it into Dext. Move it into Dext. It's now not your issue. The AI is going to look after it, and you don't have to store that receipt anymore. Congratulations, you've just become paperless. Isn't that super easy? So I hope you can see from here, so first thing to check is your connections, and then go through into your costs, into your inbox, add your documents, and you know what? It just saved yourself a whole bunch of time. 55 cents a bank sheet. Why wouldn't you? I don't think I could even, what does the coffee cost these days? You get my gist. It's great. Okay, so I'm just going to stop my share for a minute, because I know that Glenn has showed you what happens in QuickBooks, but he stole a little bit of my thunder. I still like to show it though, because it's really cool. So he has showed you from the practice side of it, where you can find your areas hiding inside your QuickBooks, but let me just show you a couple of tricks and tips in here as well. So you should now all be able to see my QuickBooks screen. So this is inside my lovely client, my big boss, Bass and Bookkeeping. So that was the client that we had set up inside of our Dext. So what we have in here is under our expenses, if we go through to our suppliers list, this is where you'll find all the suppliers happening. So we had quite a few for fuel receipts, say that fast 5 times quickly. A few fuel receipts from Atlas. They had already come through. You didn't even see them, right? Because I'd already had the auto publishing turned on, and I've already worked with the AI, as Glenn showed you. Go behind the scenes and set down what the coding is, because you forget to check. Come into your QuickBooks. It'll have it in here, and you get to check again when you're doing your bank rec. So you've got a couple of checks along the way. beauty about it is, as bookkeepers, we love our source documents, right? So, and we love our splitting of our transactions. So you can also split inside QuickBooks, but hey, get Dext to do that for you. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it's time that you save. But again, we get our source document attached, which is absolutely gold. What happens as well with our bank rec? It all matches up beautifully for us. Then the QuickBooks robots, the AI, will go one step further for you. So imagine you've got your Dext working for you. You've got the automation turned on. So the client's taking the receipt, or you scan step or yourself, and then it's going through the AI into Dext. Dext is working out what its code is. You've already said to Atlas is fuel. You won't even see that receipt in Dext because it's going to push it's automatically into QuickBooks. When you bank rec in QuickBooks, it's going to see it the first time and then go, hey, you've got a match here. We know how fast the matches are. So you tick down all your matches. In one hit, you press accept. Now, bookies, I challenge you all, if you aren't using these features, do it, because I challenge you to see how much time this will start to save you. And it's just amazing. So please, challenge you, come and have a chat to us, get connected. I'm sure Glenn would love to know. As a bookkeeper, love to know how you guys go. So I'm going to throw back to Glenn now, I think. And yeah, we're going to just see how much more we can convince you people to get onto this program and this platform, because you're crazy if you don't, right, Glenn?
Absolutely. So yeah, I think like you put it the best there. Whereas if you think about that tech as that time saving tool, as you said, like best example, you probably have 55 cents for a bank statement, right? Like you're never going to get that back. So think about it as a way of improving the efficiencies, like within your own practice. I think is, you know, the mindset you need to come to, like, and even if you are potentially, you know, being more efficient within your practice, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to charge less for that particular job. And that's sort of where, you know, all that fixed fee discussions come into play as well. It's just a matter of you making your own practice more efficient. You're going to get better margins on your bookkeeping services you offer as well. And look, there's already people out there that are doing this type of stuff. It's going to enable you to compete. Otherwise, you know, if you are charging that $400 for a simple, you know, P&L from a bank statement, you're not going to be able to do that manually and be efficient. So I think, you know, we've got to take that mindset in terms of how we're operating our practices, you know, in today's day and age. So yeah, I think we're going to then explore a couple of case studies then in the next sort of session. So maybe one for you, Denise. What, I guess, is a particular client that's sort of come to mind for you that you've sort of been able to help out maybe within their own practices or with their own business, what the challenges they were, and then obviously how Dext was able to solve some of their problems, and QuickBooks for that matter.
Well, the first one is mine, Glenn. Would have been when I first started playing in the cloud world, probably about 15 years ago. And everything that we did was very heavily manual. Like we had to manually enter bank data into software before we could even run a bank rec, and even before we could look at a receipt. So this is, I mean, it's been a really big journey, and it's been an amazing journey. And I guess it's really prehistoric when I think about the manual systems that I used to do in practice, and that businesses and bookkeepers still do today. And you just can't, I mean, you touched on the whole billing side of it, and you just can't charge a fee, a reasonable fee, to provide a really good service if you're wasting your time doing manual work that you can just pay for a software to do for you. So mine was very much very heavily manual, with the data capture, with entering data into software. So when I saw Receipt Bank, sorry, it's an old habit, I know it's Dext now, but when Receipt Bank first came out, it was almost too good to be true. And I sat down with Sophie, who bought it out of the UK, and I said to her, is this seriously real? You know, is this going to last? Is it going to fall apart? Is it going to, oh, you know, it looks too good to be true. Surely it's not going to last the distance. Well, it has. I mean, what is it now, 15, 18 years old or something? So again, Sophie challenged me. She said, look, give it a go. Just try it. So I did. Because as a bookkeeping, and a lot of bookkeepers are out there do the same, where we do a lot of the work ourselves. So our clients are busy being tradies or doing what they're doing. So they rely heavily on us, and they deliver their shoebox to us, and they're quite happy to get back in their ute and disappear into the sunset. So we're sort of left with this pile of receipts that's, you know, half of it's probably covered in grease or faded, or And that was another thing. The Bunnings receipts fade really fast. So it's also capturing the receipts before they had a chance to thermally fade. So if a client was going through an audit with the ATO, we could still show them that the thermal receipt, that it actually was real. So I guess that was another big reason, was to move towards the idea of a capturing system. We all need receipts, and I'm that bookkeeper. I don't care if the client spends $1 or $1 million. I want that source document, because if they don't give me that receipt, I have to still enter that in software, and I don't like doing things twice. So that's the first one, was me. And I fired the lady that was working for me. So truth be known, I let her go. I didn't need her anymore, because I'd paid for a software that was doing the job that a human was doing, and she didn't have any work to do. So I let her go. And I find that now I see so many bookkeepers are struggling for staff. Honestly, all the good bookkeepers are already in practice. So the really, really good ones have already gone. But there are some fabulous bookkeepers out there that are still looking. But the main thing is build yourself up with these tools, these software. You know, Dext is my #1 go-to. I talk about it all the time. It works with every single software that my clients choose to use. And the other one is a hospitality client that I had. We don't generally take hospitality because of the amount of paperwork involved. We took on this lady. She has a small little pop-up cafe, bundles and bundles of receipts. Now, her accountant was charging her a small fortune to go through her paperwork. You probably hear this a lot, Glenn, where the amount of money that, because time is money, and bookkeepers are really bad at charging for the time that we do. We gift a lot of our time away because that's just what we're like, human-wise. I guarantee you that when an accountant is doing bookkeeping, every single second is being minuted and charged for, right?
It'd be those 6-minute units, right? So
I know you're sitting in the hotspot. So she came to me and said, look, I know that, please beg with me. And I said, look, I'll look at it for you, but I'm not touching your receipts. You do need to go into this program. It's now called Dext. She's been with us for about 9 years. So she basically uploads all of her receipts. But the beauty about this hospitality client, she goes to Coles. So her pop-up cafe is in a shopping centre, and Coles is right there. So she goes to Coles, 4 or 5 times a day. Now, what I love about Dext is it extracts, and for a long time, it was the only data capture document tool that would actually extract GST. And for me, that was hands down enough for me to move to Dext, apart from the fact that we could multiple upload receipts. But the fact that it extracted Coles receipts, so I didn't have to sit there and go through. I mean, if someone's pushing out 300 or 400 receipts of Coles a month, that's a lot of time for a bookkeeper to sit there and work out how much is GST, what's got GST and what hasn't. So they are my 2 big case studies for you. One's myself as a bookkeeper. So I guess, we can look at ourselves and go, how can we improve our own time saving, and what tools are we using in practice? I'm not saying please go and get rid of your staff, but by all means, keep your staff. We love them. But also the hospitality and mechanics are another one. Those that get their paperwork dirty, I'm going to try and get on top of them before it has a chance to get greased.
yeah, absolutely. And I think like for me, even personally, long before I joined Dex, like I've been at Dex for about 2 years. So I actually, funny story, probably had a friend that was about 6 or 7 years or so ago now. So in the building sort of industry as well. He ended up getting an ATO audit based upon superannuation and subbies, and all the bookkeepers on the call sort of know how that goes, but that sort of morphed into a GST audit and that as well. And what they sort of found the bookkeeper was ended up doing, like everything was just manually processed. So it was come into like an in-tray sort of folder as such. It'd sit there, it wouldn't get entered until it was sort of cash coded, like the transactions gone to the bank statement. So ended up being a complete mess. And for him to actually then sort of have to pay an accountant needed to come in and have a look for it, recover all that information, like it was just, incredibly costly. So from that sort of day forward, that accountant ended up putting him on Dext, and everything's gone through Dext ever since. Or as we said, receipt bank back in the day, but yeah, as I said, I sort of came across it long before I started working here now. So yeah, it's interesting some of the things you hear and you see out there. But,
Oh, Glenn, I tell you, there used to be the days where we'd get receipts coming in, and I would actually sit there and I would put the receipts into date order and like month order and date order. So I'd have the to do this. but that's what we used to do. And then everything would get filed because then the client would get their file back and they'd have July, August, September. And it was just, I can't believe it. Now we just get a receipt bunch, we just chuck it into the machine, and then the machine just sorts it out beautifully. It doesn't care about date orders or what month you're doing. It's just, I can't believe what we used to do and how far, this one tool has brought us. It's just insane.
Yeah, that's right. And it's there as a safety net as well, sort of how I see it as well. Like if you've got all that information in there, you can always recover it. Like, yes, maybe you had it in a drawer somewhere as such, but it gives you that comfort, that safety. We have the obviously document retention records. It all goes into the accounting ledger in any event. So you've got all your bases covered in terms of having that supporting documentation around in the event that you ever did get an ATO audit, which aren't fun, but anyway.
Yeah, and I think another thing you just mentioned then as well, which is really important, is the fact that you guys store the data. So it doesn't matter if someone moves. I mean, we don't want people to move away from QuickBooks, but if they were to move a different software, so let's just say they've moved from Xero to MyUp or over to QuickBooks, at least if they're using Dext, the data stays in Dext. So the bookkeeper doesn't have to worry about all of those source documents being lost in that software that's going to be moved. So that's also really important as far as security and data storage goes as well. And it doesn't cost any extra either. It's all part of the parcel. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. We might go through then, I think, Grant, if you're okay to this, maybe some of the Q&A that's happening at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that session, Glenn. Denise, that was great. And yeah, we've got a bit of Q&A sparking off, so let's jump into a couple. We have one from Pamela who's asking if Dext can be used as a bit of storage. She's got a customer who's out there on Reckon hosted. So can you use Dext for document storage?
Yeah, absolutely. We can use Dext for document storage if we wish to. Obviously, we recommend obviously the integration and the extraction are obviously a big part of that. But yes, if you wish to, we can use it for document storage. I think following on from that, Pamela said, does it store in order? So we can actually sort and filter based upon like who the supplier is. We don't have the concept of a folder in there as such, but whoever the supplier is, we can sort and filter by the supplier and then date, etc. Within there. So we can also export all of that as well. So as a complete list or with the attachments also, if ever you need to do it in that way. Hopefully that answers those questions.
Amazing. We had one from Eileen who's a little bit concerned about just being able to get support should she encounter any issues. And Glenn, if you can just touch on the support available and if there's a contact number or how support works for Dext.
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. We have local based support here in Australia. What we have as well is in terms of the support that you get, Denise is obviously as part of our partner program as well. So we have obviously preferential support to some of our partners. So there is sort of set criteria around that. For businesses can obviously purchase the product directly as well if they need to. So dependent upon how many clients you obviously have that you want to put on a partner program versus maybe it's a one-off client, you could go the direct route as well if you wish to. But yeah, absolutely. We do have Australian based support during Australian hours. So yeah, that should be fine.
Great. I'll just go back to one that you had answered in text, which was another one from Pamela looking at bank transaction listings and if it matters if the customer writes on the PDF copy. So Glenn, if you could just touch on that for everyone else.
Yeah, look, provided it's legible, I think that's really all our machine learning is going to obviously require. Obviously, if we can read it, we can extract it. It comes back to those confidence levels that I was talking about previously, though. So if we actually haven't hit those levels, there's a good chance that maybe we'll actually have someone actually have a look at it so that when it does go back to you, it will be actually a complete record. But, obviously it's going to depend on what that file looks like. But, yeah, there shouldn't be any issues, I wouldn't assume.
Great. Folks, we're almost at time, so if you do have any last-minute questions for Denise or Glenn, any burning questions, throw them in the Q&A panel now or forever hold your peace. I'll let you have a think on any questions that you may have. I'm just going to give a very quick plug to the sessions that Denise and Glenn are going to be running at Get Connected. So Get Connected is our two-day event in November at Allianz Stadium in Sydney, which was recently the host of the FIFA Women's World Cup. Denise is presenting the session, one of many sessions she's doing actually for us. One session is called The Bookie's Dilemma, Evolve or Dissolve. And I think you got a flavour of that today. You know, technology is moving super fast. Apps are improving. AI is becoming even more intelligent and useful in your day-to-day practices. And Denise is going to, I guess, take a bit of a dive into why practices and practitioners should really embrace that technology as your friend and your enabler, and how you can actually start to rethink your business model and evolve to attract those new clients or even attract new team members, as well as eventually positioning and preparing your business for its own sale down the track. Denise will also be presenting a session on mastering the tech stack for your tradie clients. So really digging into all of those apps, solutions, tips and tricks for your tradie clients and for your practice, looking at Dext and a few other key tools with a particular focus on building out that tech stack for your tradie customers, for your tradie clients, as well as the session slashing time from your BAS preparation workflow. And Denise is going to share some tips there on how she's managed to cut almost 20 minutes from every BAS that she completes. So huge time saver, that one. Glenn is going to be joining us on the day as well. He's going to be covering QuickBooks and Dext in practice. So I guess taking a bit of a deeper dive into what's been covered today and really looking at how Dext and QuickBooks work seamlessly together to automate all of those financial workflows, and looking at some more real life scenarios that you can implement immediately as you head back to the office the following week to really streamline your processes and free up some capacity. So we would love to see you there in person. It's going to be a great event in person out at Allianz Stadium on the 2nd and 3rd of November. Of course, for those who are in Western Australia, remote regions, and can't make it on the day, we do have a live stream option as well. So we'll have more information out to you by email with a copy of today's session, or you can jump on after this call at intuit.me/getconnected23. That's the URL that's on the bottom of your screen there. Looks like we've covered everyone's questions. Oh, we get one last one in. Glenn, we've got one last one in. I can see you typing an answer. This is, if you store data, then leave from Dext and shut down the business, for example, how long does that data, kept?
Yeah, look, generally, like if you've got a current subscription, we keep it for up to 10 years. It is so obviously well in excess of the ATO's record. If you do leave Dext, so what we would usually recommend is obviously you export that data. So we will keep it obviously for a minimum of 30 days after it. I have seen it obviously kept for longer, but yeah, if you're no longer a customer, we do recommend you export it, and it is a simple zip export for you as well if you want the data. Again, if you are integrated with QuickBooks, etc., all of that supporting documentation would have been sent across into the ledger and will be attached to the transaction.
Great, thanks, Glenn. We are bang on time. I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today, taking the time out of your day. Denise, Glenn, thank you so much for all your work in preparing, and look forward to seeing you at Get Connected on the 2nd and 3rd of November.
Thanks so much, Grant. Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, see you all in Sydney.
Yep.
Thanks,
see you guys. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks, everybody.